Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great week. I wanted to make a quick video about using quotations in your writing. This is a common issue that I see students run into, and I'm going to introduce you to some best practices to make sure that you're making the most of using quotations in your own writing. So I'm going to share my screen and start PowerPoint now. All right, so this little lecture is called Incorporating Quotations from Outside Sources into Your Writing. Think about why we use quotations from outside sources. We use quotations from outside sources to bolster our own credibility, and we use quotations from outside sources to assert that experts are arguing for the same things that we are. We use quotations from outside sources in order to add texture to our writing. There are a number of reasons we use quotations from outside sources. Here are some common problems that I see students run into when they're using sources in their writing. Allowing another writer's words to overwhelm your own claims. So by this I mean not giving enough context to the quotation that you use, and rather allowing the quotation to take control over the paragraph. Remember that quotations are supposed to be working for you. You're not supposed to be working for the quotations. So your quotation really needs to be embedded in your own writing in such a way that your voice still takes the center stage. Inadequate explanation of how the quotation relates to your own claim. So you need that connective material to make the explicit link between what's going on in the quotation and what's going on in your own writing. Failure to introduce a quotation. Introducing a quotation can be as simple as author, insert name, states, then having the quotation. You don't have to have an elaborate introduction, but a quotation, you always should have at least a clause introducing the quotation. Failure to expand on the meaning of the quotation, letting the quotation have the last word. Oh, it looks like I forgot a closed parentheses there. So I oftentimes see students end a paragraph with a quotation, and that's something that I want you to avoid. Ending the paragraph with a quotation is letting someone else have the last word in your argument, when really your argument and analysis needs to be at the forefront of what you're saying rather than the quotation. So every time you include a quotation, you need to follow it up with your own analysis and discussion of why that quotation is important to your own writing. Another thing I see students do all the time is using a quotation when a summary or paraphrase would be more appropriate. This is a skill that comes with practice, but if your quotation is very long, or it's not saying something in a way that is very inspiring, or really like, this is the best possible way to put this statement, you don't necessarily need to use a quotation. I do oftentimes also see students including quotations that are too long and would be better used if they were cut down, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, here are some best practices for using quotations in your writing. Introduce the quotation in a clause with the author's name and a lead-in phrase. Example, according to Jane Doe. So you should do that directly preceding the quotation. Vary the verbiage in your introductory clause. So you remember that in our writing, we're trying to get across as much meaning as we can in as few words as possible. So if you can think of if you can use a stronger word than just the author states, do that. The author proclaims, the author argues, the author dismisses the understanding that, whatever. Get as specific as you can about how this quote is working with the information around it. Follow the quotation up with your own commentary. You should have, for every quotation, at least one sentence that follows that quotation in which you directly deal with the content of that quotation. And you should be discussing the meaning of the quotation and its relevance to your own argument. So you're not just summarizing what's going on in the quotation, but you're connecting the quotation to your own writing. And consider whether the quotation really offers something that enhances your own writing. Remember that the role of incorporating quotation into your argument is not to take up space, but to enhance your own claims. So if you see a quotation that phrases something in a way that you think is super powerful, that's a good sign that you should be using that quotation. But if you're using a quotation just because you feel like you have to, consider paraphrasing or summarizing that quotation instead. If necessary, you can add words to quotations using brackets to make the quotation make sense to the reader. Example, when in brackets, undergraduate students first arrive at school, they often find themselves overwhelmed by the array of opportunities available to them. So the implication by these brackets is that I'm adding in the word undergraduates for clarity in the quotation. You can use this. I commonly see students use these brackets to insert a person's name where a pronoun is used in the quotation to make it make sense. So this is how you alter a quotation to add information. I can't remember if I have a slide about this, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. When you want to take information out of a quotation, or you want to take words out of a quotation, you do so with an ellipses, which is the 3 dots. So if I wanted to take out, I'm not sure what I would take out of this quotation actually, but if you find that the first portion of a quote and the last portion of the quote are really great and you really want to use those parts, but there's a lot of material in the middle that is just okay, you can connect this first and last part by just using an ellipses. Here are some introductory phrases or words that you can use instead of states or writes. You can use argues, agrees, asserts, claims, comments, compares, declares, disagrees, disputes, demonstrates, emphasizes, illustrates, implies, observes, and there are countless other examples of what you could use. So I really want to encourage you to try to vary the wording that you're using when you're introducing quotations so that you're making clear the relationship between the quotation and that which precedes the quotation. Follow up on the quotation, very important. Remember, it's your job to make sure that the reader understands how the quotation relates to the central claims. You need to be connecting that central claim to your argument. Your follow-up should offer an analysis and weave the quotation into the structure of your broader argument. So here's an example that I made up. As Smith states, and I should have used a better word than states. As Smith states, college is one of the most stressful times in a person's life. Society should not undercut the difficulty of maintaining a balance between social and academic life for an undergraduate student. This is to say that not only is university challenging, but the difficulty comes at least in part from the problems that arise from maintaining both personal and professional life. So I'm offering analysis of what about that quote is important to my argument, and I make note of the fact that I am directly talking about the quotation in this statement. I'm not moving on to just talking about the topic again. I'm addressing the quotation. Questions to ask yourself before including a quotation. How does the quotation function in the context of my argument? Where is the most appropriate place to include this quotation? Is this quotation necessary? How does it add to my argument? Who wrote it? Does including this person's words bolster my credibility? Okay, and we are going to stop there. I hope that this is helpful. Feel free to revisit this video as often as you like, and I am always available to help answer questions. Take care.